When was the last time you witnessed two sworn division rivals sit across a negotiating table, stare each other directly in the eyes, and walk away from the transaction convinced that they had each won the exchange? Because what is reportedly unfolding between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals on the eve of the 2026 NFL Draft is not the typical predatory extraction that defines most draft day trade conversations. It is something far more rare, far more mathematically sophisticated, and far more revealing about the genuine executive intelligence operating inside both war rooms simultaneously. The doors to our intelligence center are sealed. The draft value charts are spread across every available surface. The salary cap ledgers are illuminated at maximum analytical resolution. And we are about to conduct the most forensic, most comprehensive audit of this divisional blockbuster that this platform has ever produced, because the strategic logic driving both sides of this transaction operates on multiple simultaneous levels that the mainstream media's surface-level coverage has almost entirely failed to capture. Let's begin by confronting the single most psychologically charged dimension of this entire exchange: the interdivision taboo. The conventional wisdom embedded in NFL front office culture treats trades within your own division with the same suspicion reserved for corporate espionage, and for historically defensible reasons. Every asset you surrender to a division rival has the potential to be weaponized against you twice per regular season, and again in the postseason, compounding the damage of a poorly constructed deal with a frequency and intensity that trades with non-conferent opponents simply cannot replicate. The fear is not irrational. It is grounded in genuine competitive logic that has produced enough cautionary tales over decades of league history to cement the taboo as organizational conventional wisdom across most front offices. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC. But conventional wisdom, when applied rigidly and without situational discrimination, transforms from protective instinct into competitive limitation. The most analytically sophisticated research into interdivision trading patterns reveals something that contradicts the popular perception with statistical force. When properly accounting for the differential rates at which teams trade, and therefore have opportunities to trade within their division, the empirical evidence does not actually support the existence of a genuine systemic avoidance of division rivals as trade partners. Do NBA teams avoid trading within their own division? The taboo persists largely as a psychological artifact, a heuristic that feels correct and protective, but that, under rigorous quantitative examination, does not reflect actual optimal decision-making behavior. Washington Commanders general manager Adam Peters articulated this reality directly and publicly, stating that he does not personally believe in being scared about trading within the division, that if the trade represents genuine value and can help improve his team, he will absolutely consider it. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC. John Lynch has apparently reached the same analytically mature conclusion, and the specific circumstances of his proposed transaction with Arizona provide precisely the conditions under which crossing the divisional trade boundary becomes not just offensible, but genuinely optimal from a competitive resource management standpoint. The financial architecture of the San Francisco 49ers demands a complete and honest assessment before any evaluation of this trade's strategic wisdom can be conducted. This is a roster operated with essentially zero margin for salary cap error, a franchise where every financial commitment exists in direct tension with every other financial commitment simultaneously. Nick Bosa's historic defensive contract, Fred Warner's foundational linebacker extension, Mike Evans' veteran wide receiver salary, and the looming, imminent financial detonation of the Brock Purdy extension collectively create a payroll environment where the luxury of loading up on expensive, premium-priced veterans at multiple positions simply does not exist as a viable organizational option. In this specific financial environment, the 27th overall pick carries a value profile that is more nuanced than its nominal first-round designation suggests. The most rigorous academic research on NFL draft pick valuation, building on the foundational work that has evolved substantially since Jimmy Johnson's original chart was constructed in the 1990s, demonstrates consistently that teams routinely overvalue the highest picks in the draft in ways that are inconsistent with rational expectations. PDF Massey, Thaler, Loser's Curse, Management, Science, July, 2013.pdf. The psychological pull of a high draft position creates systematic bias that causes franchises to pay premiums for early selections that exceed those picks' actual surplus value contribution. PDF Massey, Thaler, Loser's Curse, Management, Science, July, 2013.pdf. A 27th overall pick on a roster already saturated with expensive veterans, where the incoming rookie will be competing for limited playing time against established high-salary contributors, generates a lower surplus value return than the same pick deployed on a rebuilding roster, where immediate starting opportunities are abundant and development environments are maximally supportive. The volume strategy Lynch is reportedly executing addresses this mathematical reality with genuine sophistication. By converting the 27th pick into a package of mid-round selections, San Francisco is not merely acquiring more picks in an abstract sense. They are acquiring multiple cost control contributors at precisely the positions where the roster structural vulnerabilities are most urgent and most damaging to the championship window. The left guard situation represents a genuine weekly threat to Brock Purdy's physical health and the offensive line's functional integrity. The safety rotation carries depth concerns that become catastrophic the moment an injury strikes the starting unit. The defensive line rotation requires the infusion of cheap, athletic, hungry young bodies that the Chris Kukurek system demands to execute its relentless wave attack philosophy. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC +1. 127th overall pick cannot address three simultaneous structural vulnerabilities. Multiple Day 2 and Day 3 selections, intelligently deployed across multiple positions by a scouting department that has demonstrated consistent ability to identify value. On the first round, the trade-down strategy is not an admission of drafting failure. It is a recognition of roster geometry that the most analytically rigorous front offices in the modern NFL have consistently identified as underutilized. Research demonstrates that teams trading down, when retaining the best player from the acquired picks, gain measurable additional production compared to selecting a single player at the original pick position. PDF Massey, Thaler, Loser's Curse, Management, Science, July, 2013.pdf. Now we must redirect our analytical precision toward the Arizona Cardinals side of this exchange, because their motivation for paying what amounts to a divisional premium to move into the bottom of the first round requires equally rigorous examination. The rebuilding Cardinals are not operating under the same competitive urgency that defines the San Francisco decision-making environment. They possess significant draft capital, they have organizational patience built into their current roster construction philosophy, and they are not under the kind of championship window pressure that forces immediate, concentrated asset deployment. So why would Arizona willingly surrender multiple Day 2 and Day 3 picks to acquire a late first-round selection from a division rival? The answer, when examined through the lens of quarterback contract mechanics, reveals a strategic calculation whose financial implications extend across an entire decade of competitive roster management. The fifth-year option embedded in first-round rookie contracts represents one of the most powerful cost control mechanisms available in the entire National Football League's contractual architecture, and its value is amplified exponentially when the player in question is a quarterback who projects as a potential long-term franchise cornerstone. When a quarterback is drafted in the second round, the franchise acquires 4 years of cost control production at the rookie contract scale, a meaningful advantage over the open market rates for established veterans, but a temporary one that expires with limited leverage for extension negotiation. When that same quarterback is drafted in the first round, the franchise acquires those same 4 years plus a fifth-year option that can be exercised unilaterally, extending team control at a salary determined by performance tier rather than pure market negotiation, and providing an additional full season of leverage during contract extension conversations that prevents the player from reaching unrestricted free agency prematurely. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC +1. For Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback Arizona has identified as their preferred franchise architect. The mathematical value of that fifth-year option is not marginal. It is potentially transformational for the organization's ability to build a competitive roster around their signal caller during his developmental years. If Simpson develops into a legitimate starting quarterback over his first 2 seasons, The fifth-year option allows Arizona to maintain cost-controlled access to the services, while simultaneously investing salary cap resources into the supporting cast that accelerates his development and maximizes his competitive environment. The alternative, drafting him in the second round and facing a more compressed timeline before expensive extension negotiations become unavoidable, creates a scenario where success generates its own financial pressure far more quickly than the organizational timeline can comfortably absorb. The Arizona Cardinals are not surrendering mid-round picks to acquire draft position in the abstract. They are purchasing specific contractual leverage over a player they have identified as the foundational piece of their next competitive cycle, and they are paying what the research community identifies as the San Francisco tax, a premium for divisional trade that compensates the selling franchise for the competitive risk of enhancing a rival's draft position through mid-round selections that address San Francisco's volume needs rather than through premium assets that would represent genuine organizational sacrifice. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC+1. The conventional draft value frameworks that have governed NFL trade negotiations since Jimmy Johnson's chart was distributed across league front offices provide the baseline mathematical language through which both parties can reach an agreement that feels equitable by established market standards. The system, football for sale plus two. But the most sophisticated analysts understand that the true value exchange in this transaction operates above and beyond what any standardized chart captures, because the surplus value generated by a fifth-year option on a franchise quarterback exceeds what any pick value formula assigns to the difference between a late first-round selection and the mid-round picks being offered in exchange. Arizona is paying a price that looks balanced on the chart while acquiring an asset whose actual organizational value substantially exceeds its nominal market cost. PDF Massey, Thaler, Loser's Curse, Management Science, July 2013 to PDF+1. And San Francisco simultaneously is acquiring assets whose collective surplus value contribution to a salary cap-constrained championship roster substantially exceeds the marginal contribution of a single late first-round pick competing for playing time on a roster already stocked with expensive established contributors. Both organizations are exploiting the gap between standardized chart valuations and the actual context-specific surplus value that each asset generates within their particular roster and financial environments. This is not a transaction where one party is being fleeced and one is celebrating a heist. It is a genuinely rare example of two front offices identifying a mutually beneficial trade architecture that serves their specific organizational needs simultaneously. One exploring the evolution of the NFL draft pick trade market. Plus two, the broader philosophical verdict from our war room lands with complete conviction. The interdivision taboo, while historically grounded in legitimate competitive caution, must be evaluated situationally rather than applied as an absolute prohibition that prevents genuinely optimal transactions from being executed. NFL GMs not wanting to trade within division is bad business. Pro Football Talk, NFL on NBC+1. When the mathematical advantages are as clearly aligned as they appear to be in this specific exchange, when both parties are acquiring assets whose context-specific value exceeds their standardized chart cost, and when the competitive risk of enhancing a division rival is offset by the roster improvements that make your own championship window,